Hello, beautiful lit community. I wanted to come on here and talk about the power of story. I don't think we realize the power that this thing has over us and how much it is infused in our daily life. Story is something that is used to create categories for the brain to sift through and understand roles. So we use stories to define roles, essentially, and we are all playing roles. We are all just characters, right, on the stage of life. And this is something that I know that we all understand on some level, right, that you're playing a role. You're playing the role that is you. I'm playing the role that is Debbie, and I get to define what that role looks like. Yet most of us don't take that power into our hands because we are allowing society to dictate what the role of Debbie should look like, because I've already been put in several boxes. By the time I was able to I had the power or control over my life enough to dictate the role I wanted to play or define my identity. And again, the way society did that, establishing again these boxes, was box number one was my name. See, the moment that I was born, I was given a name, and that name carries weight with it. Whether or not we realize it on the physical level, on the energetic level, that name is tied to lineages, to storylines that have lasted forever. Lineages that go way, way, way back. And so immediately that gets brought into my current experience, into my DNA, into my genes, into the understanding of who I am, all based on this, again, name. That's how powerful your name is once you define yourself as that name. Once you say, yes, that is me. I remember this really powerfully as a child. One thing that you'll notice is when we look back over our lives, we have very few memories that really stand out as really significant. So it's really powerful when you have one, especially from a childhood memory, like below 7. Those are the ones we really want to look at and analyze because they hold a lot of power in them. There's a lot of information. And one of the memories that I have from being very young was struggling with my name. I hated my name. And I remember at the moment that I can remember being at my kitchen table, and the first time somebody's giving me a pen and trying to show me how to write my name. And I remember this moment because I feel like it's somehow writing my name really was me signing a contract to agree to be me, to be that role, to play that role. It locked me into something that maybe I couldn't understand at the time, or maybe I did, and maybe I understood it more than I realized. But see, our name, and then the other thing that we are placed in is a role, right? Maybe that role is gender. It's like you are a girl and I am a boy, or this is where the boy is. And I remember that as a child. I remember thinking about that and being so bamboozled, going, there's got to be more. There can't just be two. And, for a child to try and understand that concept of what do you mean, I'm just either one of these things and there's only two, that feels so limiting. And so I remember even thinking, going, well, what about clowns? They're different. And trying to find another box that you could fit in that wasn't just one of those. That was really young for me. I was very, very young. Like I had to be, 4 or 5. This is around that time. And maybe even earlier, So when we think about that, the limitation that once we decide, because then we watch stories, right? And we learn from our parents who are playing those roles. Mom is a girl, dad is a boy, you are like mom, all of these things. So we start to watch what the role that we've agreed upon, even though we didn't have much choice in the matter, what that role should look like, how we should dress, how we should perform the role. And then we just hop onto the stage of life playing those roles. And then mom and dad will start to tell us things about who we are as we're growing up. And if we agree, again, maybe it's subconsciously or consciously, we might even write it down in agreement, then now we're attaching our identity to those things as well. So that might be, oh, you know, Debbie, she's really good at this, or Debbie, she's really this. And if I agree with that, suddenly that becomes my identity, and then I'll live that unconsciously until I choose to change it. And this is the beauty. You have the power to change that. You have the power to break free of these cages and these boxes that you've been put in. You have the power to allow yourself to move outside of the society's ideas of what these, again, to maybe write your own story. Look at your story, at the very least, look at it and go, is this a story I want to agree to? And is it a story that I want to agree to because it allows me to feel free and liberated, or is it because it makes me feel safe if I live within it? And then ask yourself, well, what is it that makes me feel unsafe, right? And is that also a story that I've agreed to? That the world is unsafe unless I follow these guidelines, these rules. And again, that's the biggest thing that keeps us following the stories. Because we'll look at them and we'll watch and we'll see, oh goodness, this, if you don't do it this way, this causes pain, and then there's suffering there, and your brain is brilliant, right? It knows that. It watches these stories, it takes it in, and it says, I can't do that, or that is the result I'll have. And then it will validate it, because the brain is going to show you the proof of what you believe. So if you believe, if I do that, then this is the result, then that will be. If I eat too much cake, then I will get this result. That if you believe that and then you eat the cake, you're going to have that result. So it really is like, you know, whatever it is that you've agreed to, whatever it is that you take on as a belief, that becomes your truth. And oftentimes the beliefs that we have are all living in the subconscious mind, and they've all been given to us in story. And even there it's hidden, because if you look at it, the word history, so we're being indoctrinated in school, we're, you know, sitting down and listening to this story, the story of where we came from, where, you know, and again, this invokes fear, and also you know, sadness and shame and guilt and all sorts of things, right, that come from the story. And in the name of that class that we are all taking at some point in our childhood is his story. It is his story. So we're just basically buying into somebody's story. And what's really interesting is we can know that anybody can have an experience. And again, all experiences are happening for us, right? I have my own individual experience in any given situation. So there could be 20 people in a room. We could be experiencing that room vastly different. We're having our own individual experience that is going to be filtered through our consciousness, through our belief systems, through what is important to us. We're going to pick and choose what we pay attention to. And so, if that's true, then how can we just tell one version of history, his story? What about the other person's story? What about the other versions, the other ways that people remember it, the other experiences? What if we're telling it from one viewpoint, which then we're seeing it through sorrow and hardship and struggle, and we're casting that onto an entire population of people or ourselves? And what if that isn't even the truth? If we were to been living it, right, that experience wasn't suffering and pain. It's like if we went to a third world country, say, or like an indigenous tribe somewhere, and you watch this indigenous tribe, and there's love and there's compassion, there's family and there's connection and community, and they're doing beautiful things, but they might not do it to our comfort levels, right? We don't feel comfortable watching that. It doesn't fit in our lifestyle. So we're going to project our opinions onto it and view it as suffering. And they're not suffering at all. But if I was to tell the story, I would pass it on as, oh, it was awful, they were suffering. But if you ask them, they're like, no, we're not. They're joyful. In fact, if we had a way to measure joy, they probably have more joy than we know how to experience. The person that is projecting knows how to experience and telling the story. But we're going to distill it down to that one version, and then we're going to sell that one version of the story. How is that even possible? And yet we do it. And so what I'm telling you is, what if we just look outside of the lines of these stories and we start to design a society that is maybe a new version of what is possible? We have changed so drastically as a society. It's amazing that we are living in the same societal boundaries and rules and constructs that were there, say, 50 years ago, 60 years ago. It's absolutely insane. And yet now we have AI, technology. I'm talking to people across the world. They used to have to use, horses, and it would be a 2-week journey to send a letter. It's amazing. And now I can just heart you, in 1 second. I can watch a live it's amazing. And yet we're still going to buy these stories. We have access now to infinite information, like limitless technology and information. It's at our fingertips. They called it the age of Aquarius, which is the age that we are now embarking on or in. And this is called the age of information, or was always deemed as the age of information. They always knew it was going to be upon us. And the biggest fear of the age of information, imagine that. Like, we fear the possibility of having access to limitless information, not having wisdom keepers anymore, not having to rely on that one person who had gone to school to learn how pipes work under the sinks, when your sinks go. Now we can just go to YouTube and we can look up a video on how to fix it. There is no more wisdom keepers now. It is out there. All the wisdom is available for everybody. It's accessed by everyone. It's different these days. So it's amazing that we're still functioning as if that isn't the case, right? At this point, we could start to look at, what if we dismantle some of these stories? What if we at least look at them to see if they're true? And when I'm talking about stories, yes, the history books, that's huge. That is absolutely huge. But let's get away from there. How about just all the stories? How about the stories that you tell about you? The stories that you've decided about your life. Are they yours? Or did somebody else tell those stories to you? And then you took them on as your truth. And then you're still living this truth. You've decided this is who you are because that is the story that you experienced. But is that true? And in the stories that you tell about you, what role are you playing? Are you playing the role of victim? The person who, had a hard life, struggled? Or are you playing the role of a child of God, the infinite possibilities, that you are in walking with the Creator, and that everything that happens in your life is happening for you, because of you, and through you. And it's all a gift. Are you seeing yourself as that person that is growing stronger and winning at life? And you wouldn't know that without those challenges. And that's why those challenges come your way, because you're so powerful. There's so many ways to tell your story from the hero's perspective. Are you doing that? So it all distills down to, this whole conversation is, who are you? What do you believe about who you are? And is that really true? Is it serving you? Do you want to believe something else? Are you right now desiring a shedding of an old layer of you and emerging as something new? And as you're going through this emergence, what layer of your story needs to be changed, altered? Maybe we've got to rewrite that chapter, right? And it might be a chapter that's already happened, and you could be like, well, Debbie, how can we rewrite the past? Yeah, you can tell it very differently. Yes, you can. You could be another person in that room, seeing it through a different lens, a different perspective. And what if you did that? And then you saw yourself in that story as the hero. And any story can be told from that perspective, I promise you. And then when you become the hero of your life, this is when the world can't touch you, because now nobody else can tell you who you are. Now nobody else can steal your power anymore, because no matter what, you're going to see yourself through the lens of powerful, as the creator, as knowing who you are. And that is so important. If you know who you are in this age of information, when so much information is flowing at you, it's like, yeah, bananas are good. No, they're not. You should have 20. No, one is terrible. I mean, you've got to know who you are. You have to know who you are in this world to be able to know what is right for you. And not allow the world to come in and be able to tell you differently. You shouldn't do that. When you know who you are, then you realize that the world is just a mirror. And if somebody's telling you you're doing it wrong, that is just a reflection back to you somewhere in your heart where you have a little bit of doubt, where you haven't fully formed your idea yet, or you haven't fully formed into the version of you that can step completely into that space. And so that person is offering you some wisdom, the mirror to shine back, to go, here's what you need to work on. And then you can step fully into that powerful version of you. I see you, friends. I see you for who you're becoming. I know it. And I can't wait. I can't wait until we all band together and start to recreate this story that we see ourselves in, and the story of society, and our agreement about it, our shared story. Life is going to be so amazing when we remember that we have wings to fly. When we remember that we can remove these chains and liberate ourselves. When we remember, period. Remember. Put yourself back together, become whole again. When we take all the fractured pieces of ourselves and we form them back into the whole, that is when you become the full version of you. It's like the puzzle, you start to build one portion of the puzzle, then this piece over here, then this piece. And so you can see the tree starting to form, and you start to build out, the house over here, and suddenly it all comes back together. The remembering, the putting the whole puzzle back together. And it's like we can see it. We zoom out and it becomes visible. That's the work that we're doing, and you're emerging into this version of you, and I cannot wait. Thank you so much. If you're still here with me, please know I love you so much. Please check out my website. I have memberships on there, and I would love to connect with you. I do private sessions, one-on-ones. My website is debbiedixon.net, DEBBIEDIXON.net. I'll see you soon.